Good morning, everyone. So welcome. Welcome. This is our first public speaking contest we're doing for TCDSB. This is your chance to cheer. You got to cheer. You got to say, yeah! Go ahead. All right. That was much better than the good morning. I never make you repeat something, so I'm glad we got excitement going. My name is Roy Fernandez. I think I've met most of you in one way or the other, so I'm Superintendent for Indigenous Education, Equity, and Community Relations, and we're so thrilled that you are here today. This is the first year we're trying this. Like anything, when you try it for the first time, we know there are going to be ways to make it better. And we want to hear from you after as to how to make things better. But the fact that you're here today, the fact that we have 10 students from grade 1 up to grade 12 that are here representing their schools, that's exciting. And what we're going to ask you today is be as respectful an audience as you can. Audience has a job, just like the speakers do. And the audience, your job today is to make sure you cheer, that you applaud, that you support. Everything's done with respect. And we know that. We know you know that too. There's never going to be a time where something's being laughed at because someone makes a mistake. That doesn't help anyone. It's going to be cheering, supporting. Make sure these students, not just from your school, but from every school, know how important it is what they're doing today and know how much you support them by what you're doing today. So with all that in mind, we're going to start off as we always do in our Catholic schools with our opening prayer. I'm going to call Ms. Campbell, one of our judges, to come up for our opening prayer. And as I pass the mic off, speakers were telling you this too, you have several options today. You can be speaking from here. You can be speaking from there when this mic is on, as it will be at times as well. We know our tech crew will control that. So when you come up, you can make that decision when the time comes. Over to Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. If you want to join me in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Fast from judging others, feast on Christ in them. Fast from wanting more, feast on being thankful. Fast from anger, feast on patience. Fast from worry, and feast on trust. Fast from complaining, and feast on enjoyment. Fast on negatives, and feast on positives. Fast from stress, and feast on prayer. Fast from anger, and feast on forgiveness. Fast from self-concern, and feast on compassion for others. Fast from fear and feast on truth. Fast from discouragement and feast on hope. Fast from gossip and feast on silence. Fast from fighting and feast on peace. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Aileen's going to do our land acknowledgement.
Thanks so much, Olivia. It's my honor to express that the land we walk on belongs to the Creator. Earth does not belong to humanity, but rather, humanity is part of the earth. The land was created to be enjoyed by all living beings, a principle reflected in the dish with one spoon covenant. Taking only what we need to preserve our earth for future generations, leaving some for others as a sign of our respect and caring, and keeping it clean by revitalizing the land to sustain generations to come. All Toronto Catholic District School Board properties are situated on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat peoples. We recognize that the land covered by Treaty 13 is held by the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We also listen to the echoes of their prayers to the Creator and respect the beauty of Mother Earth while striving to learn and draw wisdom from First Nations, Inuit, and Métis traditions.
So this is the video that got us started. A lot of you will recognize this video, and we started this journey, and I want you to think about this. This journey started back in October. October is when we first kind of said to schools, hey, this is a public speaking contest we're doing. I don't know at what point you stepped into it, but so much starts with how to get your ideas going. And this is the video that started us all, that Aileen is going to start off. Oh, we disappeared on a sec, so I will keep killing time until it comes back up. And as you listen to this video, I want you to listen to the speaker's voice, because we're going to talk about our success criteria right after this. Thanks, Aileen.
They say, children should be seen and not heard. They say, they'll understand when you're older. You're just a kid. But the kids swam for 3 hours on the open sea to save 18 lives and became an activist for refugees. A kid broke through barriers to keep migrant families together and delivered a message of hope. Let us fight with love, faith, and courage so that our families will not be destroyed. A kid was forced to kill in a brutal civil war and became a human rights activist, freeing other children from violence. A kid fought for girls' right to education, was shot in the head in retaliation, and won the Nobel Prize.
This award is not just for me. It is for those forgotten children who want education, who want peace, who want change.
And the kid spoke truth to power, inspiring a historic movement against climate change.
We kids shouldn't have to do this. I wish that the adults would take their responsibility and do this instead. But since no one's doing anything, we have to.
Kids are speaking up. Kids are demanding their rights. Kids are acting now for a better tomorrow. What will you do?
So we're going to show you our quick success criteria. And the reason we start with that video, it kind of shows you what good speaking is. I've heard that video so many times. And yet, if we talk about good expression, think about how the main character, how they made sure they had excitement in their voice. If I stood up here the whole time, kind of, talking, I'm so glad to see you here today. It's so exciting that everyone's here. There's no expression. So that expression in your voice as a public speaker, we hope you're going to see that today from the 10 students that are going to read for us. We talk about pace is varied and appropriate. I wrote down the one where the first student ended up saying, let us fight for love. And then they pause. Or later on, when Malala says, this award is not just for me, they slow down their voice. And then she said, peace, education, change. That pace is so important. And then if people can't understand what you're saying because you're not enunciating, then no one hears your message. Bless you. We've talked about the fact that sometimes we speak very lazily. We don't really move our mouths when we speak. Well, that's so important. And then, of course, that last one. We want to make sure you keep your audience's attention because of how interesting your writing is. And all those different points are there. So we have our 4 judges. That's the success criteria they're looking at. And I know Simone's out there somewhere, and Simone's going to help us change up this rubric next year. We had some people saying, hey, could you change this rubric up a bit? Could you make this a bit different? Absolutely. Your feedback's going to help us do that as well. What do you want to see differently? So I'm going to take a quick moment now just to acknowledge our 4 judges sitting at the judging table. I don't watch any reality TV, but for those of you who do, I think this is what happens. You have the 4 celebrity judges there, and they end up doing their various things. So they do not take any bribes. But they are here, so we have Miss Olivia Campbell, one of our community relations officers, so she is waving out too. We have Miss Sonia Sherrill, our Indigenous resource teacher. I know you can't see them up there, but we'll say their names anyways. We have Miss Jada Brown, one of our grad coaches for Black students, and we have Miss Jody Huang, another community relations officer. So they, as you're speaking today, will be sitting there kind of making notes as you speak. You've gone through 3 rounds to get here. Your teacher might have chosen you to get through the first round. There was a panel of judges from the Equity and Indigenous Department and Community Relations and Literacy that chose those to come here, and now fresh new judges. They haven't heard your speeches at all, so they're seeing it and hearing it for the first time today. I think I'm ready to move away from myself. Oh, Miss Santel, she's using her clicker somewhere. That must be what's happening. I don't know how to use the clicker. She's got the clicker going. I'm going to welcome our MC, Mercy, who is here from Loretto Abbey to take over.
So it's nice to meet you all. My name's Mercy. I'm from Loretto Abbey. I'm in grade 11, and I'm so honored to be here, and I hope you all enjoy the speeches that everyone has taken their time to prepare. And yeah, so let's get started. So let's give a big warm welcome to our first presenter of the day. We have Margot in grade 1 presenting What is Fair.
Hold the mic for her. Margot, do you want to hold the mic yourself, or do you want me to hold it for you? Want me to hold it for you? Okay, here we go. When you're ready. Take your time. Take your time. You're all here to Give Margot a big round of applause as she's getting ready. What's your speech about? Remember the words are? How did you start out? What's our first line, Miss Daminato, so we can kind of pump and prime her?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Margot, and I am in grade 1, and I am in the school from Monsignor Corrigan. I wrote this speech because I want everyone to be kind to each other. If I was kid prime minister, I will change the world. Here are a few things I would do. First, everyone should not make fun of people's size. We are all special. Second, it doesn't matter whether you have dark or light skin. Everyone is different but special. Third, all boys and girls should be allowed to go to school in every country because they are equal. Girls are just as smart as boys. If we can all be kind to each other, God would be super happy. I am Margot, and I am a super smart girl with beautiful eyes and beautiful skin. I am God's perfect creation. Thank you.
Way to go, Margot. Awesome, awesome. Margot, you can go have a seat. Way to go. Just before Mercy comes up to introduce our next speaker, I have to tell you something special about Margot today. Today is Margot's birthday. So we're going to say happy birthday to Margot. Audience, you are phenomenal. Your energy is through the roof. That is so exciting. The other thing I forgot to say before I turn it over to Mercy, you decide when you come up how you want to speak. Do you want for our younger students, I've talked to a few, if you want me holding the mic for you, I can. You want to hold the mic yourself, you're welcome to. And Miguel and Avinda, we have this if need be. Good. If you choose that you want to just stand at the podium, bring the mic over and then the mic will come on for you. So you make that decision when you come up. I'm going to turn it back over to Mercy.
That was amazing. Thank you so much, Margot. Now on to our second presenter of the day. We have Giorgio from grade 5, and he is going to be presenting his speech, Body Shaming. Let's give him a round of welcome.
Hi, my name is Giorgio. I am coming from Monsignor John Corrigan Catholic School. I chose to write about this speech because I want to use my voice and show that everyone should be heard. I chose this speech because I want people to hear other people's voices. Body shaming. Body shaming is a problem in all schools today. Body shaming is when a student judges another person's body and trying to make them feel bad on how they look. I have heard some rude and disgusting comments said to someone who is overweight, such as food craver, flat screen TV, and sunblocker. These are rude comments people say to someone just to make fun of them and try to feel more superior than someone. People say these stuff just to make someone feel bad. I don't know why. People do these stuff. I want to feel better than someone. But in reality, we're all equal. People don't see that goes against a child's right to have fun and not be scared when they come to school so their body will be judged. People do these stuff just to think it's funny and humiliate them. It can affect someone physically. You could body shame someone and someone would want to go in a fight with you because you really disrespected them so much. People don't see how disrespectful that can be. People don't see how you can make someone cry when they come home. They don't see what will happen when someone gets body shamed. They will keep that in their head and keep on thinking about it. For example, one time I was playing soccer and I was called fat. I was called that because I couldn't get the ball and the ball was far away and he called me slow and he called me fat. I wanted to go in a fight with him because he started making fun of me. In my opinion, I know it was wrong when I was body shamed or when I wanted to go in a fight with him. But I didn't want to. I just wanted him to say sorry to me. But he didn't, and he just wanted to keep on fighting me. These are stuff people do to make someone look bad. It could affect someone so much, it could affect them in the head. It could affect them so badly that every day when they come home, they will keep on looking at themselves in the mirror and will not think they'll do anything right. People will keep on thinking the wrong stuff about themselves. They'll keep on seeing the negative side. People will never see the positive side. People need to see the positive instead of the negative. Like, you could hurt someone so badly that no one would want to be their friend. It could affect them socially. No one would want to be their friend because everyone's making fun of him. And if someone wants to be a friend, they won't be. Because they think if I'm his friend, everyone will make fun of me as well. People need to wake up and look at themselves in the mirror. They got to see what they're actually doing wrong. They got to see what's happening. They got to see what they're doing to someone. They could be hurting someone every day and say it's just a joke. But in reality, it's just something they're doing to feel more superior than someone. No one is more superior than anyone. I mean, no one. People say these stuff. They think I'm the best. People do these stuff just to say that. You can be in a group and someone will make fun of you and no one will stand up for you because they think whoever made fun of you is the best. But in reality, people need to see what they're actually doing and stand up for that person and help them and not leave them. Here are some solutions that can help someone. Number 1, be a trusted, loyal friend to someone. You need to be a loyal friend to someone because that person will actually have fun with you instead of keep on thinking, oh, if this guy's my friend, he's going to make fun of me and then I'll have no friends. People need to see what's actually happening. They got to see if you're a good friend, people will always want to be with you. If you're a good friend, everyone will want to be with you. They'll see the positive side instead of the negative. People show the negative side because they think, oh, it's so funny. They got to show the positive. Second, they need to show the true version of the positive. They can't say, I'm going to be your friend for this one day, and then the next day I'm going to make fun of you because someone's going to make fun of me. People do these stuff just to make fun of someone. Anyone will be body shamed and will not know it. People start saying these stuff and don't want to be their friend and don't want to help them and want to show them the negative side. That person that you body shamed will come home and don't want to tell anyone, not even their parents because they've been hurt so much. It could help them so badly that no one wants to be their friend. No one wants to share something to them because they think they're going to get body shamed and no one wants to stand with them. So next time, if someone you see that's been body shamed, go and help them because in reality, you're going to be the good person instead of the bad person. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. That was truly powerful. Thank you for sharing with us. And yeah, that was amazing. So on to our next presenter of the day. We have, Jaden from grade 4, and he's going to be talking about bullying. Let's give it up. Want to hold it? Good luck.
Greetings to esteemed teachers, friends, and all gathered here today. I am Jaden Joji from grade 4. I think it's important for all of us to understand that everyone deserves to feel safe and respected. That is why today I will deliver a speech which I am calling Be a Buddy and Not a Bully. So, what is bullying? Bullying is a repeated misuse of power, causing physical and psychological harm. The different forms of bullying can be verbal, physical, or social. Now, what are the harmful effects of bullying? It has a huge impact on your mental health, which negatively affects your brain receptors, leading to concentration issues or even depression. It also affects the social environment. It creates fear among students, impacting the learning of both victims and witnesses. Over 24% of children suffer from chronic bullying. This leads to a lower academic achievement and a greater dislike for school. There are several reasons behind bullying, such as psychological causes, retaliation from past bullying experiences, seeking attention, or just finding it fun. But what can we do to prevent bullying? It can be prevented by advocating kindness and equality, and by treating everyone with respect. Also, by standing up to the bully if safe and confident. It's important to stand up, speak out, and show them that they are not alone. But what should you do if you get bullied? You should stay calm, be confident, never retaliate, and always seek help from a trusted adult. We, as bystanders, must step in and support those being bullied. To conclude, all bullies need to know that it's okay if someone's different, because being different from others is what makes everyone unique. And being unique is someone's true identity. Bullies destroy that unique identity of someone. Let's try to be more like Jesus, who was always kind and compassionate to everyone. He helped everyone, those who were in need. Let's not become bullies or support bullying. Instead, let's foster a world filled with companionship and support and make it a better place to live, where there are millions of buddies, but no bullies.
Thank you so much for that, Jaden. And just like he said, let us all remember to be a buddy and not a bully, and being different is okay, because that's what makes us unique. Thank you for that, Jaden. On to On to our next presenter, we have Josie from grade 5, representing Respect for 2S LGBTQ+. There you are. Okay.
Hello, my name is Josie Allen, and I'm a grade 5 student at Nativity of Our Lord Catholic School. I chose to write my speech on lack of representation for 2S LGBTQ+ families in the Fully Alive textbook. I chose to do my speech on this topic because I know people who are queer and grew up in the Catholic school system who never felt like their identities were represented or validated. I want this to change so that my generation grows up knowing that all parts of our diverse identities are loved by God in our faith community. And now I'll get into my speech. Imagine a world where women are not allowed to work as doctors or vote. Imagine a world where some children are denied access to education. In this world, my teacher, Miss Cavalier, probably wouldn't have a job, and I know she wouldn't like that. It wasn't that long ago that these forms of inequity happened in our society. There must be some things happening in our society today that we'll look back on in 100 years and say, why was this happening? Something I've noticed is that the Toronto Catholic District School Board is choosing to use an inequitable and outdated Fully Alive textbook. Exclusion is a form of oppression, and in our Fully Alive textbooks, many people are excluded. For example, gay families, trans families, and divorced families are not present in the textbook. Furthermore, it implies that only a man and a woman can make a family. This is seen on page 66 of the grade 5 Fully Alive textbook when it states, when a man and a woman marry, they have the power to bring new human life into the world. The Fully Alive textbook was first published in 1988, and it is the only textbook offered by the Ontario Institute for Catholic Education to teach the family life curriculum to Catholic students in grades 1 to 8. A lot has changed since this textbook was published 36 years ago. In fact, so much has changed that even the publisher, Pearson Education, decided in December 2022 to stop publishing the textbook because the homophobia and transphobia present in the textbook does not align with their company values. The Fully Alive textbook also goes against the TCDSB Equity Action Plan and the Ontario curriculum. The TCDSB Equity Action Plan has 3 pillars: equity, diversity, and inclusion. The lack of same-sex representations in the Fully Alive textbook violates what this action plan is trying to achieve. In addition to this, the Grade 5 Ontario Health Curriculum states that students will learn about factors that affect their personal identity, including their sexual orientation. The Fully Alive textbook does not explore this concept. So, what's the solution? I think there are 4 main actions that need to be taken to make this right. Number 1, the leaders of TCDSB need to act. The TCDSB Safe Schools Plan says that we believe in the worth and dignity of every person and that people thrive in a safe, healthy, and compassionate environment. If our board leaders truly believe this, they will remove this oppressive textbook from all classrooms. They know that the text is exclusionary, offensive, and hurtful. They know that using it creates an unsafe classroom for 2S LGBTQ+ students and their allies. They have the power to remove the textbook and encourage teachers to use materials that represent the true diversity of our school community and align with Jesus' message of love for all. Number 2, the Institute for Catholic Education needs to create. They need to produce a new textbook that follows the Ontario curriculum, upholds the Human Rights Code, and honors our Catholic faith by teaching love and acceptance for all of God's children. Representation matters, and we need a textbook that represents the true diversity of our faith community. Teachers need to be brave. They need to support queer and trans students by being inclusive with their classroom resources and materials. They need to have tough conversations and stand up against homophobic and transphobic bullying. Trust me, if they could do that, that would make them the best teacher a student could ever have. Number 4, students need to be allies. We need to stand up against bullying and the use of homophobic and transphobic language when we hear it. God made us all different. He also made us perfectly the way He wanted us to be. To love God is to love each other unconditionally, and love is love.
Guys, all we'll do is after we have the first. Perfect. So awesome. What we're going to do now is we're going to give our judges just about 5 minutes or less, and they're going to try and tabulate now who their top 3. Something we didn't talk about at the start. So all of you students who are here today know that you are walking out as a winner because it's top 3 that we are rewarding, both with our cash prize as well as with medals. You won't get either today, we know that, because we want to have the actual name going forward. But the judges, they'll end up talking to see how they can kind of get things together. So while they do that, quick talk back for you. Margot started us off with the idea. You might have seen this video before. It's called Kid President. And I remember when I was in Miss Dominato's class, we started with Kid President and what you would do if you changed the world. So Margot so beautifully showed that. Really liked Margot, the idea at the end too, talking about your beautiful skin and you being beautiful as you are. So great messages Margot started us off with. Giorgio followed off with body shaming. Speeches were chosen based on how you presented, but your topics were powerful. And one thing, Giorgio, we talked a lot about is what a courageous decision to write about something that affected you personally. Some of the lines Giorgio said, how does someone else feel when they hear that? I'm sure students, you've heard this term before of microaggressions. Well, microaggressions, to Giorgio's point, you don't see what it's doing to someone. And that's so important. You don't know how anyone feels when you're making the joke that you are making, but Giorgio's so clearly telling you this is how we feel. And that's important, and it's not just about body shaming. Of course, it's about the color of your skin. It's about your gender identity. It's about anything that anyone says that makes you feel like less valuable than the person you are. So many lines. I like the line of wake up and see what it's doing. Some great ideas. There was consistency from Giorgio to Jaden to Josie. You saw a theme that went through all of theirs. So when we ended up having Jaden talking about feeling safe and respected, treating people with kindness, and how important and how simple that is. Then the beautiful line at the end, Jaden, where you had the smile on your face and talked about Jesus and what Jesus would want us to do. We can't just talk about being in a Catholic school. The prayer that we started off today about feasting and fasting, yes, we're in Lent. And what does God want us to do? God wants us to love all. God wants us to treat everyone with kindness and respect. So these messages you can never hear enough, but I hope you take them and you think about them because they're coming from you. It's not your teachers, it's not me, it's you that are saying these messages. Josie then going into 2S LGBTQ+. This is all about the Equity Action Plan. And as Josie said, this is one of the 3 strands in our school board Equity Action Plan. And again, what does Jesus say? I love you. I welcome you. You are welcome here. It's what Pope Francis said. In our church, there's room for everyone. And then our director, Brendan Brown, said, in our schools, there's room for everyone. I liked what Josie said at the end about solutions as well. And actually, Giorgio and Jaden talked about that too. And I liked all your solutions, but I especially liked the one where you talked about how important it is to validate identities. And when Josie also talked about, well, this book was written a long time ago, and we have to kind of think about what's the current. The other one was the idea of all of you. Your job in this and how you treat others and how you make sure people are cared for. And then the idea of representation. That's what it's about. It's about making sure everyone kind of sees. Ms. Santiago, I know you're in conversation. She might not hear me. No, maybe can. I'm going to move on to my next slide because while our judges finish, one thing we kind of talked to you about is what's the name going to be for next year? So we want to show you. So here are some of the names that have come up for what could we call this next year as our judges finish off our first round. And judges, give me a thumbs up when you're ready to go. Are you ready to go? You've already decided? Exactly. But as long as you kind of have your thoughts together. Okay, beautiful. Let's still go ahead with this. So we have one possibility, the Equity Oratorial Showcase. I don't want you to cheer for anything, but at the end I'm going to call out the numbers. You got to pick which one you like the most. 2 could be Voices for Equity Symposium. 3, Ms. Santiago. Fairness Forum, Equity in Action. 4, Quality Expressions, a speech contest. 5 is, well, this is a good alliteration, if you know alliteration. Equity Elocution Extravaganza. I don't think I've ever used the word elocution before. 6, Inclusivity Invocation, a speech competition. 7, Equity Advocates Assembly. I think we're at 7 all told. Now, you need to understand something. Ms. Santiago is a brilliant academic mind, but she did not come up with these herself. She came up with them from a tool you've used before. These are all ChatGPT, is my understanding. So ChatGPT has suggested these as topic possible headings for next year. Do me a favor. Here's your chance to make your voice kind of heard. Just by sound, cheer for the one you want. I'm not reading them all out again. I'm going to call numbers. So instead of calling it next year the Equity Action Plan Public Speaking Contest, if you had to choose one of those, and we have more coming later, but if you had to choose, what would it be? Number 1. Ooh, no one likes number 1. Number 2. I have no idea how I'm measuring the voice meter, so in my head, I'm framing it away. I know. They didn't like number 1. Good point. Number 3. Okay, all right, we have one parent very much likes number 3. Number 4. Okay, I think number 2 and number 4 so far. Number 5. 2, 4, and 5. Number 6. Ooh. Number 7. All right, so we got 2, 4, 6, and 7. No, 2, 4, 5, and 7 so far. You better keep track, so I'll forget all of this stuff. I think we're ready to go into our intermediate round, so I'm going to call Mercy back up to the podium.
Okay, well, we had an amazing first group come up, so let's just give them a round of applause again. Now, moving on to our intermediate. First up, we have Symphony in grade 8, and she's going to be speaking on Indigenous calls to action.
Tiffany Sanchez from Our Lady of Victory Catholic School. I will be speaking on equity for Indigenous children. Picture this, a little girl named Susie. Susie wakes up every morning to a warm breakfast, goes to school, and comes home to a warm house and everything she could ever need. That's me. I'm Susie. And so, as I stand here today, I would like to draw attention to the fact that at one point in time, Indigenous children weren't like Susie and didn't have the most basic of rights because of their backgrounds. Could you imagine if someone told you that you could not have the same rights as others because of where you came from and who you were? In the 1880s, when residential schools were being fully funded by the government, Indigenous children were told just that. While in school, they were abused by staff members who cut their hair and took away their right to speak their language, wanting to assimilate them into their culture because they thought their ways were uncivilized and immoral. Today, we are free to learn however we want without being berated by our educators. Students can share their ideas and allow their creativity to blossom within their class or school. Unfortunately, back then, Indigenous children didn't have that right. On reserves, they didn't have adequate access to proper education or health care. The reserves were created to keep Indigenous people in a certain space, and this undermined the relationships that they had with their traditional territories. They were not allowed out of their reserves for more than a certain amount of time, which did not allow them much freedom. Now, most children are encouraged to go outside and socialize with other kids. They go outside to build bonds and long-lasting friendships that can be cherished for a lifetime. Some Indigenous kids who were born outside of a reserve because their mothers lost their status might not have had the opportunities to build relationships with other kids in their own community. According to the Indian Act, when an Indigenous woman married someone who was not Indigenous, she lost her status and was forced to leave the reserve. If she had children, they may not have grown up with all the rights and opportunities they were entitled to. Without the recognition and protection of Indigenous status, children were more likely to receive unequal treatment and face discrimination within and outside their community. Losing status might also have caused some cultural disconnection for the child. Most Indigenous knowledge was passed down through the mothers, so when women sometimes got separated from their children, there was a risk of a part of that knowledge being lost, which could also have affected the child's sense of identity and belonging. In closing, I'd like to highlight the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's 94 calls to action, which encourages us to both admit that these atrocities did occur and to take steps to prevent them from happening in the future. However, there is still a lot of work to be done. Of the 94 proposals, only 13 of them have been fulfilled. As I stand here today, I would like to issue my own call to action. As students and as Canadians, let us celebrate and recognize Indigenous voices by giving them the opportunity to tell their own stories. Let us find ways to be more involved by interacting with the Indigenous community. let us take a stand against discrimination and harmful stereotypes and promote respect for Indigenous culture. Imagine a future where all children, no matter their background, can live just like Susie. After all, doesn't every child matter? Thank you.
Thank you, Symphony, for sharing with us today and bringing awareness to the discriminations that Indigenous faced and still do face. And just like she said, every child matters. Let us not forget that. So moving on to the next speaker, we have Gabby in grade 8 talking about intersectionality. Let's give her a round of applause. Good luck.
Good morning, fellow students, Ms. Collinson-Levy, and esteemed judges. I'm here today to speak to you about intersectionality, to educate, to inform, to engage with you in a topic that I am passionate about. See, I am Gabby, a girl, a female student, a black girl, an Asian child, and in a few short years, a young woman. I am all of these things and so much more. Personally, I know that life can be harder because of the labels affixed to me. I struggle to navigate my way through the different worlds that I get pulled into. There can be a myriad of negative experiences people face: gender discrimination, anti-black racism, Asian stereotypes, all rolled together into one neat package of subtle animosity. If you want to have an open dialogue about stereotypes, discrimination, and racism, then I think that you have to recognize that these issues overlap and intersect. The topic cannot and should not be limited to just one perspective. So what is intersectionality? Well, the dictionary definition is an overlapping of social identities and related system of oppression, domination, and discrimination. To me, I see it as my identity as a black Asian female meeting at the same point, a location or nexus where others want to limit me. It is like people desperately need to sort or categorize me, but they just don't know where to place me, when truthfully, I don't need to be placed anywhere at all. The problem is society focuses on categorizing us. So like the census that asks you, what's your cultural background? What's your racial identity? What box do I check off? Why do I even need to do that? The term intersectionality originates in the United States of America, and not surprisingly is related to CRT. An American law professor, Kimberly Crenshaw, highlighted that discrimination is multifaceted and is not limited to just one area. She is a huge inspiration. In the late 1980s, she coined the term intersectionality. For example, if a person is experiencing economic hardship, there's often a connection to either gender or racial discrimination. We have to consider how all of these factors impact an individual. Crenshaw explains that you cannot take one issue and separate it from the other. She's also a feminist, which makes sense. Advocating for women's rights on the basis of equality of the sexes is a goal of all feminists. The issue of intersectionality highlights how discrimination and exclusion are not simple and cannot be solved by focusing on a single issue. We need to change our thinking on this matter and acknowledge how intersectionality and its impact on so many people. Due to the way that others see me in the world, the concept of fitting in with the crowd can be daunting. On the show, Ginny and Georgia, Ginny sums it up all for me. I often worry about how to blend the most and offend the least. Racism, the Black Lives Matter movement, and combating anti-Asian racism and gender equality are all interrelated. For me personally, as the world evolves, we need to take a stance and go beyond the boxes. To quote another great black woman, Angela Davis, she stated, "I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things that I cannot accept." Begin the conversation of intersectionality in your home, your classrooms, and your community. When I walk in a room, don't be predisposed to judging me. So let's truly see the world as a rainbow, not one shade, not one gender, not one race. Because after all, I am just Gabby, and I think I'm pretty great.
Thank you, Gabby. I think you're pretty great too. And just like she said, we all need to take a stance and change those boxes. Thank you so much. Let's give it up one more time. On to our next presenter of the day, we have... I think they introduced her, but we have Shay in grade 7 talking about being yourself. You wanna?
Yes. Hello, my name is Shay Hines. I'm in grade 7, and my topic is being your authentic self. The reason I picked this topic is because I struggle with being my authentic self, and I realize how important it is. And I hope after hearing my speech, you will realize how important you are as well. Do you ever say things you don't mean, or mean things you don't say? Do you sometimes laugh and smile when you feel the opposite inside? Or maybe you're quiet when you're shouting in your mind. Or maybe you just go along or agree to something, even though you know in your gut you don't believe in it. I know I do sometimes, and these are all signs that you're not being your authentic self. Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the importance of being your authentic self. And you may be asking yourself, I'm in grade 7, why do I care about all these things? Well, let me tell you something. Knowing who you are and accepting yourself is one of the most important things you can do in life to help you grow, build confidence, and just overall live a much happier life. In grade 7, we're all going through so many emotions and growth. There's a lot of pressure to fit in, be cool, and do what everyone else is doing. We get scared to just be who we are. We get afraid of not having friends and being labeled a certain way. I know sometimes I hide from being my true self, but I'm slowly learning to accept who I am. I realize that putting on a mask and pretending to be someone I'm not is hard. It's actually extremely hard, and it makes me tired and drains all my energy. For example, I'm someone that carries my emotions on my back. I feel everything so strongly. I don't like seeing other people get hurt or made fun of. But sometimes to try to fit in, I don't say anything. I know it's wrong deep inside, but I struggle between doing the right thing and following the crowd. And when I do the wrong thing, it makes me feel sad and angry inside. Like I knew I should have said something, but I chose not to. So how do we become our authentic self? I'm not an expert, but I can tell you what I'm doing. I learned that becoming your authentic self is a growing process, and it doesn't happen overnight. I've learned to be honest with who I am and what I'm interested in. I'm quirky. I laugh really loud. I love to dance and sing out loud. I love to talk. I love to help people, maybe sometimes too much. I'm curious and I like to be aware of everything around me. I'm also starting to realize and respect my boundaries and others as well. I'm accepting and embracing who I am, and I'm learning not to be afraid to show the world who I am as well. We are all unique, and celebrating our uniquenesses is what makes us and the world more exciting. Can you imagine if we were all the same? It would be boring and we wouldn't be able to learn from each other. Using our strengths and our voices, we can change the world. Look at Autumn Peltier. She cares a lot. She was a talker. She used her voice to be an advocate for the universal right to clean drinking water. She raised awareness to ensure First Nation communities had access to clean, safe, and reliable drinking water. She was courageous to stand up for herself and her community. And by doing so, she's changing the world. So in conclusion, I encourage all of you to look within yourselves. Are you hiding your true self? If you are, take off that mask. Be proud of who you are and encourage your peers and friends to do the same. I know it can be scary, but remember that being courageous means being afraid and still doing it. So stand up and let your voice be heard. Don't let others take your shine. Don't let other people's opinions stop you from doing what you want to do. You all are amazing. And the more you show others who you truly are, then they will realize you are amazing as well.
You're phenomenal. So our judges are going to take now another couple of minutes just to find our top 3, because that ends our intermediate division. I want to tell you something. I'm not just making up time to speak right now. All 3 of you, just inspiring. I actually had tears welling up listening to you. You are so inspiring, and the messages that you were giving, and to all the teachers and the parents and your classmates, for pushing you along the way. Just beautiful. I want to say a few things from each of them. So Symphony, I so enjoy the way you start off. Picture this, the first time we kind of heard it, and you had full circle at the end with imagine a future. Isn't that what this should be about? Students, you know this, right? We say this sometimes. It's not a cliche. It's not words. You are the future. So if you can imagine that future and what it needs to look like, that's the first step. Another thing, when Symphony was talking about truth and reconciliation, you did some revisions to your speech, which was excellent. A work of writing is never done. Always know that. You might think you're finished, but you go back. It's so neat to see how students have made changes from their second round to the final round. And when Symphony referred to, I hope you know that. There are 94 calls to action. And one thing we often talk about, truth and reconciliation, that means you have to understand, yes, horrors took place. How do we make it better? And one line, I don't know if you've heard of Symphony that I heard often said, is reconciliation. Because what reconciliation means, do something, make change. Symphony's already started that. And she's called you out by giving her own call to action. Beautiful. Gabby, the idea of open dialogue. Isn't that what this should be about? I hope you're not going to leave here today, go back to school, and not think about anything. Please always think about things. Gabby's challenging you, talk about these issues because they matter. Whether you agree or not, and that's important too. You might not agree with some things the speaker said. That's okay. Talk about it respectfully, always. The idea of, oh, my writing is so bad sometimes I can't read what I'm saying. What box do I check off? And that idea of uniqueness, how each of us matters. What box do I check off? Boy, my writing's really bad here. I got to stop scribbling. Don't even know what this one says. I'll show it to you after. I like the quote so much. Change the things I cannot accept. We can't spend our lives doing what my children, who are now university age, used to do at a younger age. Like, I don't know. Don't ever say, I don't know. You've got to have an opinion. And you have to find ways to help others understand what you believe in. It's so important. And finishing off with Shay, starting off with choosing when to say something. Being your authentic self. There's a book I'm going to have to get. I know your teacher well. I don't know if you have this book, The Me I Choose to Be. I got to get it to you if you don't have it. Yeah, I'll find it for you. Shay, so much of what you said, you got to meet this author because she talks about the me I choose to be is important just the way you are. And then the idea that we can change the world. Yeah, you're right. As soon as you decide you can't, that's where things end. I'm thinking my judges, you might be ready to go. Do we have consensus, Ms. Campbell? We never get consensus, so students understand finding the top three, even though there's only 3 of you here, it is so difficult. So judges, keep going. Ms. Santiago, can we go to our next round of choices? I think you're going to go up on our slide deck. All right, more suggested names for next year. Here we go. EAP mic drop contest. I thought, Shay, you were going to drop the mic when you finished off. Looked like you were ready to do that. Number 9, use your voice. Number 10, listen and learn. These are not ChatGPT, I'm telling you that, or some of them are. 11's got to be ChatGPT, Ms. Santiago, I feel. Equity echoes, amplifying voices. Number 12, diversity dialogue, speech contest edition. Number 13, equity express, articulating inclusion. Do we have a 14, or is that it? That might be it. No? Okay, so we're going to go backwards. Thank you. So these ones, again, if you don't mind, similar to last time, Ms. Santiago is keeping track of your applause meter. So number 8, EAP mic drop contest. All right. And sorry, I won't read the whole one out. Number 9. Ooh. That's all right. Listen, you still choose what's important too. That's important. Number 10. Oh, Ms. Campbell likes that one. Number 11. Number 12. And number 13. All right, so I think that this one was number 8 and 11. We know where number 8 came from. So I think we're ready to go on to our final round. And before we invite up our intermediate students our senior students who are going to speak, I want to tell you something that's important. You challenged things respectfully in your writing. We heard that right from our juniors to our intermediates, and our seniors have done the same thing. Always challenge respectfully. It's the only way things are going to move forward. I'm going to turn it back over to Mercy.
Okay, on to our senior division. We have Anish in grade 11 talking about equity in action.
This might be a little too short.
Yeah.
No worries. I vividly remember my time at Sunday Mass, hearing Father's insightful and thought-provoking stories and the beautiful hymns of the choir. But oddly enough, out of all those experiences, the thing that stand out to me the most is actually a Bible quote. From the book of Matthew, the last will be first and the first last. I loved it. This message of the underprivileged rising to the occasion and succeeding, it sparked a fire in me. But as time passed and I grew older, I began to question and grapple with it. The truth was, people I knew that were marginalized weren't getting ahead. Last summer, I got the opportunity to work with the local student council and the Black Youth Association to be there on the ground, understanding what lack of opportunity did to students. I met Terry Ann there, a student who wanted to join a local dance troupe, but didn't because of lack of representation. And it was heartbreaking to see a passion taken away because of something beyond her control. I also met Jeremiah, a queer student looking for literature that they could resonate with, only to find it wasn't available. This led to a series of questions to me, a thought process, that this concern wasn't just something I faced in isolation, outside, but something that happened every day from 8 o'clock to 3 p.m. in four walls, in our classrooms, in our schools. A lack of representation and a lack of structure for these students. So how do we go about solving this? Well, there's two ways. Let's first address with a lack of structure. Let's look at students all across the board facing this lack of social structure. Now, how do we combat this? Well, yes, the board's working hard, teachers individually working hard, and so is the province. But adding mentorship and support programs are crucial for these students, giving a way to inspire them. Let's look at the story of a Black baker who really imposed cultural foods and sold them, growing his business. Or perhaps an LGBTQ plus IA electrician that went through the skilled trades, learned from it, and can express their identity and how they navigate the trades. These stories are inspirational to students, as what they say is that it will be okay. That where I am right now, I'll have a way to succeed and move forward. Adding a layer onto this, let's look at how we can use support structures, not just from outside, but inside the community as well, and adding funding, not necessarily in a financial sense, to student organizations. Let's take the example of Black History Month student organizations. Right now, what they do is every year, a 1-hour presentation. And that's so powerful. But what if we could do so much more? By spending more time with them, we could have more versions of activism, traditional potlucks, and so much more. But this is just within the school community. And let's extrapolate this to the whole board. By combining different infrastructures from all throughout high schools, what we can do is combine these students together under a unified voice and not have them being ostracized as one individuals. By creating these communities throughout the board, we not only benefit from one powerful voice, but actually as a way of addressing information as well. By having these communities, we're able to talk to them about potential bursaries that Black students might have, potential scholarships that might be just available to US LGBTQ+ communities. Now, our second layer is an issue of representation that lines our educational materials today. Let's look at the arts, literature, social sciences, humanities. There we face a problem of representation. Now, although I know English classes are really addressing this thoroughly by introducing new pieces of literature that really highlight these identities, the same thing can't be said for politics and history classes, where we're still so Eurocentric and fail to address other representations and identities all throughout. Now, how do we go about fixing this? Well, there's two ways of doing it. A is making amendments to our current mandatory grade 10 history class. What changes can we make? Highlighting the experiences of Black French soldiers during World War I, potentially looking at US LGBT+ communities in the interwar periods and how they adapted to changes in society differently than others. By doing this, we garner a sense of community, not only within these communities that are impacted, but also Canadians as a whole, as we understand our culture even further. The second and potentially more extreme approach is the creation of an Afrocentric history class. Now, this might seem unnecessary, but I'll talk about why it's so crucial. When we look at senior level history courses, such as the ones I'm taking today, they often end up being too Eurocentric. But there's content available out there as well. Let's look at everything from the 1300s in Mali to pre-colonial Africa to modern day revolutions to Ethiopia and Italy relations. There's so much to cover that we just end up not doing. By garnering this sense, we have two benefits. A, for the students that these communities impact, they have a sense of identity, a sense of what their past comes from and what they can grow from. And for students that aren't, it allows them to have a new perspective, a shift on things that helps them with their discourse today. I've firsthand seen the impact that providing opportunity can have on students. Remember Terry Ann from the start? 3 months ago, she joined a local dance troupe, in fact, specializing in Southern Nigerian dance. And actually last week, I got to see a performance of hers, and I must say, it was amazing. Going back to that quote from the start, I still grapple with it today. And I'm unsure about where to go. But what I can say is, it isn't false, but rather having the last come first is a path that we need to work towards. Thank you.
Thank you, Anish, for that speech. I really like the verse you opened up with in Matthew, saying how the first will be last and the last will be first. That's a really powerful verse. On to the next presenter, we have Ava in grade 11, and she's going to be talking about dress codes. Let's give it up for Ava.
I've never been one to be ashamed of my body. Sure, I spot my flaws here and there, but never enough to tone down my confidence. It wasn't until my mom stopped laying out my clothes in the morning that I realized my body could be shamed on. My whole life, I've been told to be modest and to cover up as I'm being distracting, regardless of the weather or even my age. And now I understand that certain clothes have a time and a place. I mean, it's always been doctrine to wear your Sunday best on the way to church and your navies and whites on the way to school. That's never been a question. However, it wasn't until I had the chance to grow my own perspective that I got the chance to realize what's being projected on my body isn't always right. Growing up has never been easy for anyone, nonetheless, a girl in a Catholic school. Dating back to elementary school, I remember being victimized for wearing a tank top in the June heat. How distracting can my shoulders be? They're shoulders, and that was years ago. But yet I still hear the same stories from my younger sisters who have followed in my footsteps. How is it fair that a 6-year-old girl be sent to the principal's office for wearing shorts in the sandbox? It wasn't like she picked out her outfit that morning, or even bought it. But yet, her education is still the one being impacted, all because her attire is deemed inappropriate? This now presents an issue, because if the 6-year-old girl is being sent to the principal's office, why isn't the 6-year-old boy beside her? If her shorts were inappropriate, what makes his acceptable? You might argue that their bodies are anatomically different, therefore the clothes they wear are different. So why aren't the dress code mandates? Female and male students should not be abiding by the same dress code guidelines. This is equality. But yet, be following the more anatomically specific. That is equity. As sad as it is to say, these experiences tend to follow students throughout their academic lives, leading to impacts on the impressions of their school, bodies, and most importantly, self-worth. On page 35 of the TCDSB Equity Action Plan, it states, with our belief in the worth and dignity of each person, we demonstrate living out the gospel values of love, compassion, inclusion, and care for all. To which I ask, how do you live up to this word if there are constant instances of girls across the board being told to cover up for their male counterparts? It has happened to me. It has happened to those I love. It has happened to every girl sitting in this room in support of me. It has happened just walking down the hall in my kilt. Now, not only does that make me feel uncomfortable in my school, but it makes me feel uncomfortable in my body. How is it fair that I'm made to be uncomfortable in an environment where I'm supposed to be safe? My head should be filled with thoughts about moles and dipoles, not comments in which my appearance is distracting someone I'm supposed to trust. The quality of education should not be impacted by the quality of fabric on my body. We need to fix the rising issue before it continues to affect students across the board. The equity plan further states that human rights is the foundation of all your work, and that you strive to ensure equal treatment without discrimination against members of groups in your education services and employment. Making students feel less worthy of themselves and isolated by such procedures contradict this very quote. This practice needs to be adapted on all active board properties, not just in schools. If you still don't believe this to be a big issue, let me further explain. During what was supposed to be the highlight of my academic career, the ultimate high school experience, Camp Olympia, I found not just myself, but my peers being personally called out for having curvier bodies than others, while simply wearing a tank top and shorts in a sweaty gym. Yet others, who were flatter-chested, could get away with wearing the same top, especially those of the opposite gender. Therefore, instead of enjoying our night like the rest of our peers, we were sent back to our cabins time and time and time again, being told that our bodies in the clothes that we were wearing were attracting attention from the male students and teachers. Followed then by a very inane lecture about how we should be respectful and to know to dress better than that. But it's not like we had just seen shirtless boys that morning. As a female student, it saddens me to realize the hypocrisy and double standard in my academic environment for something so fatuous. In reflection, I can't help but feel a damper on the memories I had been making and an uprise on the emotions that moment had made me feel. When creating a universal dress code, the different body types, anatomical differences, and clothing availability should be taken into account. Personally, I haven't seen shorts that go to above my knee that aren't either spandex or sold since the 2000s. It's outdated. The board needs to understand that what's generally stated cannot be adapted to both genders. Our bodies are different. Therefore, the clothes we wear are different. Ultimately, it's up to the board to review the current dress code and revise it to a standard of this current generation. But I propose you work with students. Work with those who are actively going through it. I've used my voice here today, but I fear it's not enough. Because right now, the dress code is equal, but it is not equitable. So please, tell me, how distracting can my shoulders really be? Thank you.
Wow, 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 wow. Thank you for that, Ava. That was powerful. And just like she said, our bodies are different, so let us all learn to be confident in it. Now, moving on to the next presenter, we have Nicole in grade 11, and she's going to be talking about cultural acceptance. Let's give it up for her.
Picture this, a room filled with flags from every corner of the globe. A room brimming with a wealth of literature that encompasses the uniqueness of every culture. And now, picture yourself in that room, surrounded by those flags, each one acting as a puzzle piece in the world of inclusion. I want to play a little game with you all to test your knowledge and to see how many flags you recognize. If you recognize what country the flag is from, simply raise your hand. Starting with the first one. Here's the second one. And here is the third one. Interesting. Welcome, everyone, to a journey of cultural immersion and the exploration of diversity. Today, I ask that we embark on a quest to learn, to connect, and to embrace the rich tapestry of those that surround us. My name is Nicole Naini. I'm a 16-year-old student in the TCDSB, and I'm proud to say that I'm Colombian and Iranian. I want to start off by taking a look at what my childhood looked like as a student in the TCDSB. Let's start off in grade 1. I was 6 years old, and we had to do an activity where we had to color in our favorite flag. I, of course, colored in the Colombian flag. My teacher approached me, she glanced at my paper, and with a hesitant voice asked, "What country is that?" And with a smile, I replied, "It's Colombia." But her reaction was odd, almost as if she couldn't grasp the fact as to how someone from Colombia ended up being a student in her first grade class. She then replied with, "My daughter's nanny is from Ecuador." I remember coming home that night and telling my mom that I was confused as to how she had made a connection of two very different countries. And now, as I reflect on that memory nearly 10 years later, well, beside Colombia and Ecuador's close geographical proximity, the best thing that she could say about Colombia was that a country like Ecuador, nearly 832 kilometers away, was a nanny here in Canada, almost suggesting that being a nanny was the most that anyone from South America could accomplish in their life. I was a 6-year-old student in the TCDSB. And then comes grade 3. I was 8 years old, the bell had rung for lunch, and I had made my way skipping down to the cafeteria with the falafel lunch my dad had packed for me. I sat down, but I struggled to open my thermos, so I asked my lunch monitor for help. She opened my lunch, looked inside, looked up at me, looked back down, and asked, "What is this?" Obviously, she was surprised to see an ethnic lunch, as the only thing that students would bring was butter pasta or plain sandwiches. I told her, "It's falafel. My dad made it for me." She then replied with, "Ooh," and then proceeded to warn me not to sit too close to the other kids because the smell might scare them away. I turned around, I closed my thermos, and from that day forward, I only brought butter pasta and plain sandwiches to school because I no longer felt respected or comfortable bringing in a cultural lunch. My dad had lovingly prepared that meal for me, hoping to share a piece of his culture with me and to make me feel proud of where I came from. But when he heard about my lunch monitor's reaction, he felt disappointed that his efforts to instill cultural pride in me were met with rejection. It made him worried that I might feel ashamed of our heritage, or worse, that I wouldn't feel accepted for who I was. He wanted me to feel confident and comfortable in my own skin, and this incident made him realize the challenges that I was soon going to face when navigating my cultural identity in a school board where differences aren't always celebrated. I was an 8-year-old student in the TCDSB. And then in 5th grade. At the age of 11, our class was tasked with a geography project where we had to share about a country of our choice. Eager to showcase my Colombian heritage, I enthusiastically dove into research, gathering facts about our rich culture, our diverse landscapes, and our vibrant traditions. And when it came time to present, I stood before my classmates proudly displaying those photos of Colombia's luscious jungles, our bustling cities, and the colorful festivals. But as I spoke about the beauty of my country, I noticed puzzled looks and whispered comments among my peers. One classmate raised their hand and asked, "Isn't that the country where drugs come from?" And my heart sank, as I realized that my classmates' perceptions of Colombia were clouded by stereotypes and misinformation. And despite my efforts to highlight the country's natural wonders and cultural richness, I could not shake off that feeling of frustration and of disappointment. But the individuals who asked this question was just merely misinformed. And this is exactly where the school board comes in. It's essential that we educate students about the cultures that surround us. The reason why change needs to be made is because not only is this harmful to the individual that it's said to, but it's a problem that students in our school board lack cultural understanding. They're entering the real world without a clue of what's outside of Canada. I'm a 16-year-old student in the TCDSB, and I've learned a wealth of knowledge about Indigenous rights, the African American community, and the 2S LGBTQ+ community as well. I'm so grateful that I have learned about these marginalized communities, and I see where the board is making big strides to educate. However, I'm a 16-year-old student in the TCDSB, and I still lack knowledge about all other minority groups. The equity plan, it only touches on 3 groups. However, according to Statistics Canada, there are 10 minority groups: South Asian, Chinese, Black, Filipino, Arab, Latin American, Southeast Asian, West Asian, Korean, and Japanese, and I have learned about none. I want to know more. I want to be taught more. After a careful analysis of the TCDSB equity plan, its main solutions were starting with representation in the curriculum. However, let's take a look at the books and the literature pieces that I've previously read in my English classes. I've had enough of the canonized literature that is dominated by one singular voice, and I've had enough of the Shakespeare plays. I would have loved to have read a book written by a Colombian author when I was in grade 5. I would have known that my heritage, my voice, and that my identity mattered. This is true for the 3 groups mentioned in the plan, as well as the 7 that are not. In addition, this representation in the curriculum is supposed to be carried out by providing professional learning, for staff and administrators to support the development of students within these 3 groups. And that's fantastic, but why not expand it to all other minority groups as well? And next, the plan states that there will be anti-Black racism professional learning for staff. And if this is thoroughly carried out, that is excellent. But there still is not much for students. I know students want to learn more, and I know students want to be taught more. So this is what I propose. Integrating a mandatory culture course for students, similar to the grade 11 World's Religion course, would be a great way to start. This course will cover topics such as cultural traditions, heritage, and beliefs, including religion, language, and the worldviews of the nation. I recognize that I'm 16 years old. I'm not a curriculum, nor am I a policymaker, which is why I'm here today, because I know individuals in this room are. And this is my way as a student to showcase what I believe is needed to be changed in our curriculum. In this course, students and teachers will be able to learn about the 10 different minority groups, thus furthering their cultural awareness and understanding on various cultures. This way, the hundreds of minority students in the TCDSB who have often felt culturally misunderstood will finally be appreciated and recognized. By introducing this culture course, the TCDSB will be able to understand the needs of students and continue providing them with the amazing opportunities that they've been doing so. So let's teach students about the beautiful diamonds in Botswana, the beautiful beaches in Oman, and the natural resources in South Sudan, because I know students want to learn more. Thank you.
The word that keeps coming back to me just through all the speeches is inspiring. And I want to go backwards this time. Nicole, that one of the last lines you said, I recognize I am 16 years old. Future, this is all going to be you. And I don't want any of you to ever think that the age you are is going to stop you from accomplishing anything. The idea of imagining the future, it starts with all these ideas you've talked about today. And it means reaching out and talking about things as each and every one of you did again. I want to keep coming back to this. I'm going to tell you students something that you may not know. I call myself the complaints department sometimes because what I hear a lot from people are, this is what's wrong, this is what's not working. And that's so important. But what I've learned to appreciate so much is respectful dialogue. And when people speak respectfully about things that matter, that matters. Other things, as I'm going backwards here, Nicole, I thought about the line, I don't know if I mentioned Murray Sinclair. And so Murray Sinclair, one of his lines is, he was involved in the Again Symphony in the '94 calls to action. Education's what got us into this mess. Education's going to get us out of it. Our best way forward is always going to be learning. And that learning starts with you, students. It's not just your teachers or the adults. It's every one of us in here to learn. That's so important as well. Stereotypes you talked about. I talked to you about this last time. I hope you're eating falafel still, because it's one of my favorite foods. I hope you still have that. But we talked about this again for microaggressions. Students, consider if this might have been you. My parents, born in India, sending me to school with Indian food sometimes. And a kid next to me might say, that's gross, that smells. And what did I do? I just ate my food because it was good. But how could you make sure you're not the one to make someone feel that way? Back to Giorgio's comment, how do you feel when you go home with that stuff? So important. Now I can't read my writing again. You no longer felt respected. That's caused by us, by what we do, and that's not okay. Ava, going into, I thought so much, Ava, as you were reading, topics that are important to us. Isn't that so important? Every student here, please always write about what matters to you. Because I could tell every one of you to write about dress code, but you might not care. But Ava came so clear how important that topic was. Believing, I like how you quoted from the Equity Action Plan, belief in the worth and dignity of every person. Some of these topics, adults, I want to talk to you. I wonder, adults, if you felt uncomfortable at any points listening to what students were saying. Because I think that's completely normal and good. Because when we as adults feel uncomfortable with what our students are saying, it means we got to look at how are we going to move forward to help. Because students always hold us accountable, respectfully. Always hold us accountable. The last line there, for us as adults, the idea of working with students. That's what both of you so clearly did. And then Anish, as I continue going backwards, it's so interesting how even Mercy commented on liking hearing the quote you started off with. Centering ourselves in faith, that's why we're Toronto Catholic. And our faith matters. And we have to center ourselves in faith, as Anish started us off with. Lack of representation, here's my challenge to every one of you out here. You know what we need in Toronto Catholic? We need excellent educators. We have excellent educators, but we continue to need them. And that's going to come from you. And that also means when Anish talks about representation, yes, we do want to see racialized educators. Yes, we do want to see 2S LGBTQ plus educators, because that's going to let people see representation. So students, consider teaching. I'm telling you, it's a phenomenal job. I did it for so many years, and I hope you'll consider doing that as well. And that's what's going to change the world as well. And there was one last line I had there. Yeah, centering it in faith. I thought that was a beautiful line. So judges, I sense you finished this one very quickly because you had already stopped talking. So this one we have decided, top 3 for seniors. Don't have that one either. Okay. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to take about we'll show you a 5-minute video now. That's almost one of those ideas for next year. Our judges are going to go into the atrium and talk amongst each other to see. And Sonia, I'm going to give you one thing, Miss Sherelle, before you go. When you just meet me outside, I'm going to give you a little kind of thing that might help the judging go a bit easier. So I'll meet you just in the hallway there. Adults, I've been told to tell you that I know Miss Oliveri and Mr. Pileggi, they had ended up getting, I believe, coffees and things for you. I'm sorry, adults, I never think about giving you coffee and stuff. They did. But we did think about students, making sure we have granola bars for you when you walk out. So that we'll give you at the end as you leave. But adults, Miss Wardle is pointing in there. So I guess you're supposed to go hide in there if you'd like to have a coffee and a cookie as the students stare at you saying, why are you eating and I am not? But just so you know, adults, it's waiting there for you. So thank you to those who thought about that. And then we're going to go on to a quick video that we hope you'll take something from, both environmentally as well as public speaking. Thanks, Ms. Santiago.
Dear future generations, I think I speak for the rest of us when I say, sorry. Sorry we left you with our mess of a planet. Sorry that we were too caught up in our own doings to do something. Sorry we listened to people who made excuses to do nothing. I hope you forgive us. We just didn't realize how special the earth was. Like a marriage gone wrong. We didn't know what we had until it was gone. For example, I'm guessing you probably know it as the Amazon desert, right? Well, believe it or not, it was once called the Amazon rainforest, and there were billions of trees there, all of them gorgeous, and... Oh, you don't know much about trees, do you? Well, let me tell you, trees are amazing. I mean, we literally breathe the air they are creating. They clean up our pollution, our carbon. They store and purify water, give us medicine that cures our diseases, food that feeds us, which is why I'm so sorry to tell you that we burn them down. Cut them down with brutal machines, horrific, at a rate of 40 football fields every minute. That's 50% of all the trees in the world gone in the last 100 years. Why? For this. And that wouldn't make me so sad if it weren't so many pictures of leaves on it. You know, when I was a child, I read how the Native Americans had such consideration for the planet that they felt responsible for how they left the land for the next 7 generations. Which brings me great sorrow, because most of us today don't even care about tomorrow. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we put profit above people, greed above need, the rule of gold above the golden rule. I'm sorry we use nature as a credit card with no spending limit, overdrafting animals to extinction, stealing your chance to ever see their uniqueness or become friends with them. Sorry we poison the ocean so much that you can't even swim in them. But most of all, I'm sorry about our mindset, because we had the nerve to call this destruction progress. Hey, Fox News, if you don't think climate change is a threat, I dare you to interview the thousands of homeless people in Bangladesh. See, while you were in your penthouse nestled, their homes were literally washed away beneath their feet due to rising sea levels. And Sarah Palin, you said that you love the smell of fossil fuels. Well, I urge you to talk to the kids of Beijing who are forced to wear pollution masks just to go to school. See, you can ignore this, but the thing about truth is, it can be denied, not avoided. So I'm sorry, future generations. I'm sorry that our footprint became a sinkhole and not a garden. I'm sorry that we paid so much attention to ISIS and very little to how fast the ice is melting in the Arctic. I'm sorry we doomed you, and I'm sorry we couldn't find another planet in time to move to. You know what? Cut the beat. I'm not sorry. This future, I do not accept it, because an error does not become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We can redirect this. How? Let me suggest that if a farmer sees a tree that is unhealthy, they don't look at the branches to diagnose it, they look at the root. So like that farmer, we must look at the root, and not to the branches of government, not to the politicians run by corporations. We are the root, we are the foundation. This generation, it is up to us to take care of this planet. It is our only home. We must globally warm our hearts and change the climate of our souls and realize that we are not apart from nature, we are a part of nature, and to betray nature is to betray us. To save nature is to save us. Because whatever you're fighting for, racism or poverty, feminism, gay rights, or any type of equality, it won't matter in the least. Because if we don't all work together to save the environment, we will be equally extinct. Sorry.
So that was twofold. One was to give you something to watch. One was you with my eco slants, knowing that I want you to think about that. And there's so much beautiful in that video when we talked about Indigenous people. Don't just think about today, but 7 generations forward. It's got to start. If I'm going to go on my speech today, which don't worry, I'm not giving you a full speech, it would have been on the environment. And it would have been how all of us have to make that difference. And then I'm giving you granola bars that have wrappers on them. So I want you to consider that too. And it's something I always think about. It's one of the reasons I don't like giving you snacks sometimes, because of the way the environment is treated. But I want you to think. Today's about thinking about ideas. So hopefully you'll take some of those ideas and go. Now, here's what you were waiting for, of course. You were waiting to hear our prize winners. And listen, I want to tell students something, and teachers and adults, the parents that are here. It's never easy to make these choices. Some of the choices, someone's going to say, I don't agree with that. It should have been someone else. I get it. That's never going to be something that everyone agrees on. In the end, one thing we wanted to definitely recognize and respect is letting you know that the people here today, that all of you are getting prizes. I'm trying to make sure I remember where I've written it down. I have. Okay. So when we set out to do this contest, we made sure that it would be known that they're going to be getting medals eventually. There's also the cash prizes that are there. So the primary division, the first prize was $75. I don't need to give a drum roll because there was only one primary student that ended up being today. Round of applause for Margot, birthday girl. So the question is, how much candy can Margot buy on her birthday for $75? Because that is what she has been given. All right, next we go into our junior. So what I will ask is, judges especially, because you have the table, we're going to start off with our drum roll. Judges, our drum roll. There we go. There was a tie for second and third place, which means the first place person will know who they are if I say second and third. So I'm going to go backwards on this one, and I'm going to acknowledge our first place winner for junior division was Jaden. So applause for Jaden. And then Josie and Giorgio, we're going to applaud for them because the judges couldn't decide who was second, who was third. So Josie and Giorgio, you've messed up my budget now because the way this is supposed to go, first place for junior was supposed to be $100 that Jaden is getting. Second place was supposed to be $75, third place $50. So the judges are going to give me $25 so we can kind of make sure that they both get second place. Josie and Giorgio are walking out with $75 as well. Intermediates. Again, I said to both of you, about three of you, I know you don't want to hear me say anything right now, but you inspired me completely in what you had to say. Let's start going backwards. Drum roll for our intermediates. Our third place is Gabby. Our second place is Symphony. And our first place is Shay. So applause for all three. And that means, again, for our intermediates, we have Gabby walking out with $100. We have Symphony with a $150, and Shay with $200 to buy pizza. Finally, we come to our intermediates, and when we started this, you want to talk about equality and equity. Why do our intermediate students get the most money? I guess they're going to spend it on the most things. So intermediate students end up at $150 for third place, $200 for second place, $250 for first place. If anyone is watching this on live stream, you could have got money by doing a speech. Do a speech next year, please. So here we go. Drum roll from our judges. Our third place is Ava, our second is Anish, and our first goes to Nicole. Applause for our students. Now, in that perfect world that is timing, because I'm time fixated as well as being environment fixated, we told you we'd have you out of here just before 12. Just a few acknowledgements to end off. And if you weren't standing there, Mr. Pileggi, I would have forgot to acknowledge you, so I'm glad you were there. So this conversation started way back in the summer when I started talking to Mr. Pileggi about could we do a public speaking contest. From there, Miss Oliveri, who's back there, and Miss Siska, who's there on the side, they were the four that started this journey with us on public speaking. Ms. Santiago, being involved in everything as she is, came in as well. I want to start by acknowledging those four individuals for this contest happening. So applause, please, to those four educators. Teachers, we really want to thank you, those who are here, and maybe those who are watching live stream, for giving your students this opportunity. Not every class took part. We hope next year every class will consider it because there's such beautiful stuff happen. And I want to acknowledge disappointment too. I want to acknowledge students might be disappointed if they didn't end up being in the top. I want to say the same thing I say to my cross-country runners always. You made the city rank. You made the top in all of Catholic, and I want you to be proud of that. Even if this take away any sting you feel. I want to give our acknowledgement especially to our second and third place students. Give them one last round of applause, please. And then all the adults here, I've forgotten something. I want to acknowledge Mercy as our student MC who stepped up with no prep. Thank you, Mercy. What did I forget? I thank Miss Siska. You're looking to her when I thanked her. You just missed that. I thank you too. Thank you. I think he's pointing to our technical, to Miguel, to Avinda, and to Dinesh for leading our technical stuff. Thank you to them. And if I forgot to thank someone, it's my fault. Send me the complaint letter. And students, here's what I want you to do, and I say this openly to you. Don't let your speech topic drop now. Follow up with me. Follow up with your teachers to follow up with me to make sure these things keep happening. I'm sharing all your speeches with our board senior staff. And that means our director of education, our associate director, our communications director, they'll be watching your speeches if they read what I send to them, which I know they will. So that's going to come to them as well. Your ideas aren't going to stop being talked about. I know there's something else I'm going to forget to say, so what I am going to remind Ms. Siska about our granola bars and something else. Beautiful. I never think about pictures either. So before we leave, we'll have our top speakers come. And then teachers, as you walk out today, the granola bars that we're just sending for each student. Students, after watching that beautiful environmental video, the very minimum we can do is not take a wrapper and throw it on the ground. The progress is going to be one of you is coming up with a solution to have packaging that is going to be fully recyclable or compostable, because I'm obsessed with chips and I don't know how to eat them without being environmentally degrading. Thank you very much, all those who came today. Our top speakers, all of you, if you could just come up so we can do a quick picture, please.